The studio lights of the Kelly Clarkson show blazed brightly as the audience roared with anticipation, their applause a tidal wave of excitement washing over the set where Kelly Clarkson, in her signature vibrant style, welcomed country music icon Keith Urban to the stage. Kelly, dressed in a chic blazer and jeans, her blonde hair catching the light, grinned ear to ear, her infectious energy setting the tone for what promised to be a lively interview. She introduced Keith with her usual warmth, recounting his Grammy-winning career and their shared history on American Idol, where Keith once teared up during her performance of Piece by Piece years ago. The crowd cheered as Keith, in a casual black jacket and his trademark tousled hair, strode out, guitar slung over his shoulder, waving humbly. The two hugged, their camaraderie evident, and settled into the plush chairs for what seemed like a routine chat about Keith's new album, Hi, and their recent duet, Go Home W. Kelly kicked things off with a playful jab, asking Keith about the bold rock influences in his latest work, teasing, "Man, are you trying to steal my pop thunder now?" The audience laughed, and Keith chuckled, his Australian accent smooth as he quipped back, "Well, Kelly, you've been stealing country's heart for years, so I figured I'd borrow a bit of your vibe." The banter flowed effortlessly, with Kelly sharing stories of their past performances at country music events, her voice brimming with admiration for Keith's guitar skills and emotional songwriting. She leaned forward, her eyes sparkling, and asked about a quirky fan moment from his tour, prompting Keith to launch into a now-famous anecdote about a fan tossing a prosthetic leg on stage for him to sign, which had Kelly doubled over in laughter, slapping her knee. "That's rock and roll!" she exclaimed, the audience erupting in cheers. But as the conversation turned to Keith's new single, a subtle shift occurred. Kelly, ever the candid host, brought up a fan critique she'd read online about Keith's recent soundtrack work, suggesting it leaned too far from his country roots. Her tone was light, but the question carried an edge. "Do you ever worry you're alienating your core fans by chasing these new sounds?" Keith's smile tightened slightly, his fingers tapping the armrest. He responded diplomatically, explaining his desire to evolve as an artist, but his voice held a hint of defensiveness. "I think fans want to see you grow, not stay in a box," he said, his eyes locking with Kelly's. The audience sensed the shift, their murmurs growing quieter. Kelly, picking up on the tension, tried to pivot, but her follow-up question about artistic integrity meant to be thought-provoking came out sharper than intended. "But isn't there a line where you're not being true to who you are?" Keith's brow furrowed, and he leaned back, crossing his arms. "I don't know, Kelly, are you saying I'm selling out?" The words hung in the air, and the audience gasped softly, the energy in the room crackling. Kelly's eyes widened, her hands flying up as she stammered, "No, that's not what I meant." But Keith, clearly stung, pushed back, his voice rising just enough to betray his frustration. "I've spent 30 years pouring my heart into my music, and I don't think it's fair to question my authenticity." The crowd fell silent, the weight of the moment sinking in. Kelly, caught off guard, tried to diffuse the situation with a laugh, but it came out forced. "Okay, let's not get too serious here," she said, glancing at the producers offstage, who were gesturing subtly. Keith nodded, but his jaw was tight, and he shifted in his seat, clearly uncomfortable. The segment ended abruptly for a commercial break, the audience buzzing with whispers as the cameras panned away. Social media was already lighting up, with clips of the exchange spreading like wildfire, fans dissecting every word. Was this a real clash, or just a misunderstanding? The tension was palpable, setting the stage for what would come next, as both stars grappled with the unexpected intensity of their exchange. As the commercial break ended, the studio lights dimmed slightly, and the audience's murmurs hushed as Kelly Clarkson and Keith Urban returned to their seats, the air thick with unresolved tension. Kelly, ever the professional, plastered on a smile, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of unease as she addressed the crowd, saying, "All right, y'all, let's keep this party going." Her voice was bright, but the audience could sense the undercurrent of awkwardness. Keith, his guitar now resting against the chair, sat with a more guarded posture, his easygoing charm replaced by a quiet intensity. The producers had clearly scrambled during the break, and Kelly launched into a safer topic, asking Keith about his holiday plans with Nicole Kidman and their kids. Keith relaxed slightly, sharing a warm story about Christmas in Australia, describing barbecues and beach days that had the audience chuckling. "It's like the 4th of July, but with Santa," he said, earning a genuine laugh from Kelly. But the earlier clash lingered, and Kelly, perhaps feeling the weight of the moment, circled back to their duet, "Go Home W," hoping to recapture their chemistry. "Let's talk about how much fun we had singing together," she said, her tone earnest. "Your voice, Keith, it's like a warm hug, and I mean that." Keith nodded, his smile returning, but he added, "Yeah, it's great when we're on the same page." The comment, subtle but pointed, didn't escape Kelly's notice, and her expression faltered. The audience, picking up on the subtext, shifted uncomfortably. Kelly, determined to steer the conversation, asked Keith to elaborate on his creative process for the duet, but his response took an unexpected turn. "You know, Kelly, music's about taking risks, not playing it safe," he said, his voice steady but firm. "I thought you'd get that, given how you've reinvented yourself." The audience gasped audibly this time, sensing the jab. Kelly's smile froze, her hands clasping tightly in her lap. "I do get it," she replied, her voice tinged with defensiveness. "I just think there's a balance, you know? Fans love you for you, not just the experiments." The exchange escalated quickly, with Keith leaning forward, his eyes intense. "So, what, I should just stick to strumming the same 3 chords forever?" he asked, his tone sharp. Kelly, caught off guard again, shot back, "I'm saying don't forget the people who got you here." The audience erupted in a mix of gasps and murmurs, some clapping in support of Kelly's candor, others stunned by the confrontation. Offstage, the producers exchanged panicked glances, and one signaled to wrap the segment. Kelly, realizing the conversation was spiraling, tried to pivot to humor, saying, "Okay, clearly we're both passionate about music." But Keith, visibly frustrated, stood abruptly, muttering, "I didn't come here for this." The crowd fell silent as he walked off stage, his guitar left behind, a symbolic weight in the moment. Kelly's jaw dropped, her eyes wide with shock as she turned to the audience, stammering, "Okay, we'll be right back." The cameras cut away, and the studio buzzed with chaos, audience members whispering furiously as crew members scrambled. Social media exploded, with hashtags like #KeithVs.Kelly and #TalkShowDrama trending instantly. Fans on X debated whether Keith's walk-off was justified or if Kelly had pushed too far. Some called it a publicity stunt, while others saw it as a genuine clash of artistic egos. Behind the scenes, Kelly sat in her dressing room, replaying the moment, her heart racing as she wondered how their friendship had unraveled so publicly. Keith, in the green room, paced, his frustration giving way to regret as he realized the exchange had been blown out of proportion. The stage was set for a resolution, but the damage was done, and the world was watching. Back in the studio, the audience was restless, their whispers a low hum as the crew prepared for the next segment. Kelly Clarkson, now visibly shaken but determined to salvage the show, returned to the stage alone, her smile strained but resolute. "All right, y'all. Let's keep this show rolling," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil. She addressed the elephant in the room with her trademark honesty, saying, "Look, Keith and we're friends, and sometimes friends get heated about stuff they love, like music. It happens." The audience clapped supportively, sensing her sincerity, but the tension remained. Kelly pivoted to a lighter segment, introducing a cooking demo, but her usual sparkle was dimmed, her mind clearly on the earlier clash. Meanwhile, backstage, Keith Urban was grappling with his decision to walk off. His manager urged him to return, warning that the media was already spinning the story into a full-blown feud. Keith, rubbing his temples, replayed the exchange in his mind. He hadn't meant to escalate things, but Kelly's questions had hit a nerve, touching on insecurities about his evolving sound and fan expectations. He respected Kelly deeply, her raw talent, her authenticity, but felt blindsided by her probing. "She's like family," he muttered to his manager, but that felt like an ambush. The manager suggested a quick resolution on air to quell the growing storm online, where clips of the confrontation were racking up millions of views. Keith hesitated, his pride stinging, but nodded. Back on stage, Kelly powered through, her voice cracking slightly as she bantered with the cooking guest, the audience laughing but still buzzing about the drama. Then, unexpectedly, Keith reappeared at the edge of the stage, guitar in hand. The crowd erupted in cheers, and Kelly's eyes widened, a mix of relief and apprehension crossing her face. "Mind if I crash this party?" Keith asked, his tone light but earnest. Kelly, quick to recover, grinned and said, "Only if you brought that guitar to play us out of this mess." The audience laughed, the tension breaking slightly. Keith sat down, and Kelly, sensing a chance to mend things, spoke directly to him. "Keith, I'm sorry if I came off harsh. I'm your biggest fan, you know that." Keith nodded, his expression softening. "I'm sorry too, I got defensive." "You know how it is when you pour your soul into something." The audience all, sensing the authenticity of the moment. Keith picked up his guitar and suggested they perform Go Home W to close the show, a gesture to reaffirm their bond. Kelly agreed, her eyes misty, and the two launched into the duet, their harmonies soaring, the warmth of their voices melting away the earlier discord. The audience was on its feet, clapping along, some wiping tears as the music filled the studio. Social media shifted, with fans praising the raw, human moment, though some skeptics still called it staged. As the song ended, Kelly and Keith hugged tightly, whispering apologies off mic. The cameras caught the moment, and the clip went viral, replacing the Clash hashtags with #Kelly and Keith and #MusicHeals. Backstage, they laughed off the drama over coffee, reminiscing about their American Idol days and promising to collaborate again. The incident, though intense, became a testament to their friendship and passion for music, a story fans would recount for years.